Hi there guys, welcome to an episode. Now it's high time that this little car had a service. I know it was taken off the road in 2019, what we call avställd in Sweden or sawn in the UK. It means you don't pay tax, you don't pay MOT on it anymore, but it's still registered. That was done in 2019. Now whether this was parked up at the house that I bought it from in 2019 and left, or whether it was stood there for a year before anybody took it off the road, I have no idea. What I do know, it's not had a service at least since 2019, and I would expect probably not had a service for quite a while before then. But that's all about to change today. She's getting a service. Right, so these are the parts that are going on the car. So we've got a rocker cover gasket. I am going to sort the tappets out on it because they're making a right noise, so we'll quieten the engine down and probably get back a little tiny bit of horsepower. An air filter, God knows when that was changed, but by the look of the rest of the car, it's been living in a forest, so I can imagine there's leaves and God knows what else living inside the air filter housing. So that's going to be changed. Pollen filter, same reason. It's probably been living under a tree, so that's going to get changed. We've got an oil filter. I imagine the oil is black. And we've got a fuel filter and some oil at the same time. So this is what we're going to do, and we're going to start off underneath the car. Well, it was black, definitely black, very, very thick. So definitely time for a change. Let's see if we can get that oil filter undone. Nope. Alright, with the big grips on it, I could get it off. Dirty. We'll let that drain for a while, and then we're going to start on the fuel filter. Right, so the fuel filter is located just there. It's got a couple of these quick connectors on the end of it, one on either side. It's got what looks like a torque screw in the middle there, so we'll see if that comes off, but I'm going to spray it with some WD-40 to see if we can loosen it off, and then it's a matter of taking both those plugs off and pulling the filter out and putting a new one in. So not a difficult job, quite easy to do. It's not a bad location, to be quite honest, either, so we'll get this oiled up and hopefully we can undo that. I can honestly say that's the first time I've ever had to hammer a fuel filter out of its casing. That was absolutely stuck in there solid. There's fuel everywhere and it absolutely stinks. So God only knows when that filter was changed last, but that's a Ford genuine filter on there, and it was absolutely jammed solid into that housing, so I had to hammer it off. But it's changed now anyway. There's a nice shiny new one up there. So now we've changed the oil, the filter and the fuel filter. So we're going to get the car down, fill it with fuel, and we're going to start doing the tappets. Right, so the air filter next. There are 4 Torx 25 bolts around here. One there, one there, one there, one there. Out with that filter. Not as bad as I thought it would be. I mean, it's dirty and it definitely needs changing, but it's not as bad. In with a nice new clean one. Air filter changed. Fill it with oil and some tappets. that's not been off for a while. Right, so there we've got the rocker shaft with all its valves. Now to adjust these, you screw on these nuts here, which opens and closes the gap here between the rocker arm and the valve. And you set these gaps when they are rocking. So what I'm going to do is put the engine into 4th gear. I've took out the spark plugs now, so that basically what I can do is push the car forward and backwards with it in gear, which means that the engine will turn round and you'll be able to see the valves move. You'll be able to see all the valves opening and closing. Now what I'm looking for is a pair of valves that rock. So as let's say that it's the 4th one here, as this valve comes up to the top, and before that one starts to go down, they'll get to a point where they rock. There. So just as that one comes up and before that one goes down, they'll rock. As those two rock, we set those ones. If these ones were to rock, same thing, that one comes up, that one goes down. As those two rock, we set those. If those two rock, we set those. And if those two rock, we set those. So we do them in pairs. Now the measurement for this is actually written on the valve cover, which is quite handy. So we've got, so it says 0.2 and 0.5 of a millimetre. So which one is which then? 0.2 and 0.5 of a millimetre. Now which one is which? Well, the 0.5 is the exhaust valves. Now the exhaust valves get hotter and will expand more, so they need a bigger gap. Now to work out which ones are the exhaust valves on this engine is really, really simple. If we look here, you'll see that that one is in line with the exhaust port. That one is in line with the exhaust port. That one is in line with the exhaust port, and that one is in line with the exhaust port. That one there is in line with the spark plug hole, so therefore it's an inlet valve. That one there is in line with the spark plug hole, so it's an inlet valve. That one there is in line with an inlet, so it's an inlet. And that one there is in line with the spark plug, so it's an inlet valve. Exhaust, inlet, inlet, exhaust, inlet, exhaust. So on these engines, it's really, really easy to see, but it does also tell us on the rocker cover. So let's get this car in gear and we'll start rocking it backwards and we'll look for a valve that rocks. So we can actually see that these two are actually rocking. As we see there, look, this one is going to come up and that one is going to start to go down. There. So we want to get these two where that one's come all the way up and that one's not quite started to go down again. So now we need to adjust these ones. So we'll test the exhaust. It's slightly too much and the inlet is way too much. So we need to adjust them. And we go in with a feeler blade and we know that that's already too loose. So I'll just tighten that up and it's very, very slight. A little bit more. Bit too much. So there we go. We've got pressure. We've got pressure on that feeler blade all the way in. Not too much so it bends, but just pressure on that all the way. So then we'll do the same with the exhaust valve, which isn't too bad. There we go. Pressure on that almost all the way. So not enough to bend the feeler blade, but enough to get it in there. Right, 3 more to do. Right, so that's all of them done. It isn't a massive job, and doing it this way, taking the plugs out, putting the car in gear, means that you can do this at home on the driveway. You don't need to jack anything up, you don't need to do anything. Put it in gear and just roll the car gently forward and backwards, and you can see the valves opening and closed. And I've moved about half a metre of the car. Well, I think you can agree that was so much quieter now with those tappets done. Took a bit of a while to get it started, but that's because the fuel filter was empty. But as soon as it filled up with fuel and we got fuel to the engine, starts up perfectly, and she purrs like a kitten now. I'm really impressed with that. That works really, really well. So now the last thing is the cabin filter, and we are done with this service. Under this little flap here is the air filter. It's marked with airflow into the cabin like that. And they're usually horrible to get out. There we go. It's got a little flap on it. The new one's marked airflow that way into the cabin. So that just fits in like that. Close that, and then the locks have blown off by the look of it. Well, it looks like it didn't have any clips on there. So I need to get some clips for there, and I don't really know how they look. Oh no, it's got a screw there. Well, as luck would have it, I found another screw. So there's a couple of things left to do on this before I go for an MOT. So there's bits of welding to be done on the sills, and probably do the wheel arches while I'm at it, while I've got the welder out and I've got some metal and stuff. So the welding's got to be done, and then I've got the bushes and the CV joint boots to change. Then it'll be the MOT, and after that I've got a plan for the bodywork. More about that in a future video, but right now, thanks for watching. Press that like and subscribe button. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks a lot, and bye bye.